Oh my goodness. Hey, it's all good. What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You, your favorite personal development coach, with another episode of Black Fathers Now. Now, dig this. I got a special episode today. And if you're watching the video, the brother that I'm interviewing is not Bokeem Woodbine. So this is not the brother from like Poetic Justice. So you're going to look at it, you're going to be like, does he have Bokeem Woodbine on it? Like, no, this is not Bokeem. This is my man. I know that's funny. I got my man, Stan Johnson, my frat brother. He is a husband. He's a father. He's an entrepreneur. He's also the creator of SEEED, Socially Equal Energy Efficient Development. He's originally from Black River, Jamaica. He's a graduate of Knoxville College. I mean, the brother's got a story, and it's interesting. We were just talking a little bit before about how I really enjoy brothers who have twists and turns in their story, because that's where the audience connects. Like, nobody can connect to that pure, straight, linear path that didn't have any twists and turns. And so, you know, to some that already know, to others that are now introduced, let's welcome my man, my frat brother, Stan Johnson. What's up, brother?
Rue, dog. How you doing, team?
Man, I am wonderfully well, bro. Rue, back to you, man. Thank you for coming on. And again, look, Bokeem Woodbine, I know you get that all the time.
No, they used to kill me with that, bro. They used to be all on me on that. I was like, look, as long as I'm a star, I'm good. As long as you know me, I'm good, bro. Whatever you want to call me, go on, call me that.
I say, as long as I'm a star, I'm good.
I'm good.
And check this out. Whether you're acting or not, you are a star based off of what you're doing and what you're doing in the community and the impact that you're making. And we're going to jump into your story. But before we jump into your story, we got to give some shout outs, because who are we without the wind beneath our wings? Those folks that are supporting us and allowing us to be the full magnitude of who we are.
Well, brother, the first shout out I got to give is to Jesus, bro. God be the glory. This could never have happened without him. His story here don't even start or end without him, period, bro. So I'm going to give him a big shout out. But you know, I got to shout out my mama. Sister, I'm in love with your body. I mean, y'all that. Yeah, man. My mama been behind me, the whole squad, bro. With good times, bad times, she ain't care. She always been down with me, you know. Got to give a shout out to all the lovely young people in SEEED. They've been pushing and making this thing pop off, man. It's been awesome. JD Jackson, big push behind this whole thing. You know, we just got to make sure we understand that. And the bros, dog, you know, we can't do nothing without the frat. This thing, we got to lift while we climb. So, rude to the good bros.
Wow, rude to the good bros. And man, dude, and it's interesting when you shout outs, you had, you know, obviously we had to throw Jesus in there because, you know, that's where everything jumps off. But you went back to moms. So that means you went back to the beginning. And as we think about the beginning, I want you to take us back to your origin story. I know you mentioned you're originally from Black River, Jamaica, but you're now in Knoxville, Tennessee, running SEEED. I know this is not like a straight path.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about it, bro.
No, they designed it for me, just the straight and narrow, straight from, no, man, I wish. So, I mean, yeah, dog. So I talk about my origin base because it's a story about poverty, right? And that's what ends up getting me where I'm at today. But I'll go all the way back. Jamaica's a third world country. People about culture and try to understand that poverty in America is different than poverty in a third world country, right? So when you think about poverty in America, you mostly think about money. I can't buy my Jordans. I can't get the ring I want for my girl. I can't get housing or something, you know. Mm-hmm. But poverty in Jamaica means you ain't got no clean water.
Ooh. Wow.
You know, we have brownouts, so rolling brownouts. That means that your electricity might go on all day, or it might just go on for 22 hours in a day. so that kind of stuff rolls. So when you think about indoor plumbing and you start thinking about electricity, when you start thinking about clean water, you really start talking about it's not you as poverty, it's your whole culture is impoverished, right? So it's a different mindset. So I was born in Jamaica, but I came to America because of my wonderful parents, bro. I was lucky to be born in a exploratory family. My mama was from the swamps. My dad was from the mountains. And they met down there in Black River in what I would consider to be the plains.
Wow. The swamps and the mountains. And they
swamps and the mountains, dog. It was amazing just in that. So I tell people I was just lucky to be born into that relationship because my parents were explorers, right? My dad's whole family went to England, Canada, and America. My mom's whole family stayed in the swamps, still there today, right?
Wow.
And so when they got together in the late 50s, my dad started cutting sugar cane, right? So he came to America, and his brother came to America as well, but he went up north and started picking apples. Well, when they got back to Jamaica, they talked about it. And my dad decided when he got finished with the sugar cane, he was going to go up to New York and pick the apples with his brother. Well, on his journey up there, he started finding out there's a lot of farms
in between.
Wow. So what he would do is he became where it was considered a migrant farm worker. Okay. So he got his green card and his alien citizen or residency, permanent residency in America. And he did that for years. So he would be in America about 9 months out of the year and come to Jamaica for about 3 months out of the year. In 1974, he brought my mom over here. But by that time, we had like 6 kids in the household. You know? So it took him literally 20 years to bring his whole family from Jamaica to America.
Wow.
Right. So I tell people I do have a problem with illegal aliens, but we celebrate America so well that we say it's the land of the home of the free and land of the brave. Like, I want to be free. I think I'm brave. So why wouldn't I get here? Wow. Right. But I don't think it should take 20 years like my dad had to take. But I don't think you should just walk across the border either. So in between that.
You know what? You know, it's interesting though, and I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of times we look at things in a binary sense where it has to be this or that. Correct. But the reality is in life is typically an and conversation, in which is a blending of both. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it's like, it's not saying that this should not happen, nor should this be the case. It's probably an and conversation, and there needs to be some nuance because each situation is different. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't want to disrupt, but
No. But I agree that, and that comes to a point where we get these political dialogues in our minds about what should be and what could be, and it's usually my way or your way.
That's right.
My way is right, your way is wrong. There's never a point where you can say, "Well, Mike, you know what? We probably should be able to figure this out. We're pretty educated."
Yes.
We've been through problem-solving courses before.
Yes.
We used to have outside entities even come in. We can even have counselors and you know, and all that kind of stuff. So we can work this stuff out. We just have to, and we just got to decide we can't just be polar opposites. It can't be this or that. It has to be a blend.
That's right.
Again, I do have a problem with you walking across the border, but I don't think it needs to take 20 years. That's right. You know, because my dad only had like a 7th, 8th grade education as well. So, and he's from the mountains. So he's like almost a caveman, if you would say, because Jamaica at that time was like 3, 4, probably about 30 years behind America. I mean, it's still, we're just a 60-year-old country today.
So, and you mentioned your dad from the mountains. Now, is your dad a descendant of the Maroons?
No, he's not. So with how my dad got up to the mountains is there's a port in Black River. Okay. So all the slaves got into that port, and the ones that got away from they captive, like, you got to remember, all the Jamaicans were bad people. They were, these were what they called, our slogan is out of many comes one people. Okay. Right? So we got all the bad slaves from all the other places in the world, and they sent them to Jamaica, and they just became irate and just got away from the slave owners and did what they did. My dad's people went up in the mountains. Okay. My grandfather's people went down into the swamps. Well, he was actually on the other side of the island and came all the way across the Blue Mountain Ridges and settled into the swamps. And they burnt out the savannah. Man, believe it or not, this place is called Burned Savannah today. Really? They literally burnt out the savannah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's amazing when you think about people like that could come from that kind of they just wasn't gonna be slaves, bro. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
free. Give us free.
Yeah. My grandfather told me, he said, son, you were born a free man.
Wow.
You can do whatever God allows you to do.
Wow.
Just make sure you do his will.
Ooh.
You know, so
and that's dude, this is so powerful, because again, as we go forward and we get to later on with what you're doing now with SEED, it's so awesome to get this backstory as to the real root to why. See, a lot of times, you know, when you ask people like, what's your why? Like, that's a big question. You know, you hear the Simon Sinek, you know, the why conversation, or the TED Talk and all of that. But a lot of people really have not taken time to identify their real why. And usually their first response is not the real response. It's usually something behind that that's the real driving force. And it's so interesting. All the time that you and I have talked, all the time that we've connected and we've talked this, I've never really gotten down to the root, to the why behind where you are now in regards to SEED. And this is powerful for me. So I love the discovery process myself.
Oh, again, we got to talk more. That's all. Because here's the thing. Again, it goes back to the poverty port, right? Mm-hmm. So I leave from what I would consider a third world nation, mm-hmm. and I come to America, into the projects. Right. So the projects is probably the worst place that most Americans can say they could be. Right. And for me, at least, it was the best place in the world.
Wow.
Right. First of all, I was in America, the land of opportunity. Remember, home of the free, land of the brave, all that stuff. That's all you ever hear outside of this place. Mm-hmm. Right. So to come here, you've done it. This is all you need to do is get here. Yay!
You made it. Uh-huh. Wow.
So as a 7-8-year-old, you don't understand that even the worst place you could be in could be the best place you've ever been in.
Ooh. Ooh. Even the worst place you can be the best place that you've ever been in. That's deep. You gotta unpack that a little bit, brother.
So yes. Okay, so I don't know if you ever lived in the projects.
No, I didn't. I didn't grow up in the projects.
Right. You ever known anybody living in the projects?
Oh yeah, hands down. And then we had some circumstances in life that gave us project-like scenarios at times, but we never grew up in the projects.
Right. So if you were living in the project, or if you knew somebody living in the projects, how would you compare your upbringing towards their upbringing? Was it perceived to be bad in the projects, or was it perceived to be good in the projects?
Oh, the perception of the projects is always negative, right? But again, that's the storyline that's put out about it. But then the flip side to that is you also have people who grow up in the projects that have loving families, that have, you know, rich friendships and great experiences, even though the narrative that gets placed about it is horrible.
So the problem is low income. Mm-hmm. That's what defines it, right? If you have low income, you can live here. Okay. So that gives you the perception of being poor, mm-hmm. right? So in America, poverty only goes around with financial poverty. Mm-hmm. We rarely talk about like emotional poverty. Rarely talk about mental poverty. We very rarely talk about spiritual poverty. We very rarely talk about any kind of that kind of stuff, right? So what ends up happening to us is we only can think about financial. So we spend our whole American lives trying to get rich financially. Don't do nothing else. So you don't care nothing about what you grew up with your that you seen your mama smoking crack when you was a kid. You just need to be rich and you'll be okay with that.
Dude, can I tell you, bro? Hold on. Now that was a mind-blowing thing that I hope y'all paid attention to, brothers that are listening, ladies, y'all tune into. So y'all are listening too. When you talked about how in America, when we think poverty, we're only talking about it through a financial lens. But the reality is we omit spiritual poverty, emotional poverty, relational poverty. I mean, all of these different scenarios in poverty would be synonymous with a deficit, right? Yeah. So meaning having a lack of. So we don't care at times, and this is what we're sold, and it goes back to the concept of narrative. We don't care about our emotional, mental, spiritual, all of that growth and development.
Let's give me some money.
Just give me some money, right? Just give me the bag. As long as I got the bag, I'm good. And the bag fixes everything. And I'm gonna throw something. This is interesting. I love this because it makes my mind go in a different direction. I was listening to, it's a guy named Sadhguru. He's like a Hindu mystic, and he's on YouTube or whatever. And somebody asked him the question about well-being, right? And they were, somebody was asking it through the lens of just pure physical health. And he said, well-being is not necessarily a life that's absent of disease, because there are a lot of people that may have disease going on, but their well-being is very high, because well-being just means how well are you living life. And that's more than just your physical, so it's your spiritual, it's your mental, it's your emotional. And again, he's an Indian Hindu mystic from another country. Mm-hmm. You approach it kind of the same way. And I think sometimes we have to kind of globalize our thought process to not only look at things through the narrow lens of money, no money, everything else takes care of itself, because you can be rich in a lot of different categories, just like you can be poor in a lot of different categories. But all of this is a part of your whole holistic being. Yeah,
this whole thing is it's a circle of life. I mean, if we don't really understand that it's more than just being one kind of rich. Mm-hmm. Like I mentioned my mama, right? Mm-hmm. My mom said her two biggest goals in life was to build her house in Jamaica so she could retire and go do what she wanted to do. And to raise all her kids to where they could take care of themselves. So one day they might can take care of her. Right? When I graduated from college, she said, I've accomplished one thing. Right? So I'm the youngest in the family. And about 5 years after that, no, take that back. That same year, I went to Jamaica with her and her house was completed. Right? And now she said, I've accomplished both of my goals. Wow. And I'm happy. Now, that was 20 years ago. Right? Now, but she lived with me for 10 years. She lived with my other brother for probably the other 10. Right? So we take care of her.
Wow.
All of her kids are grown and can take care of themselves, and I can take care of her. And we were about to go back to Jamaica next month, and she's going to stay down there for 3 or 4 months. So just imagine if you could be 85 years old and you got your kids taking care of you, and you can go back to Jamaica for 3 or 4 months and miss the whole winter, by the way. So that's the kind of stuff that really is going on. So again, you have to have some kind of person that has a vision, so you can understand some stuff. So there's another part to this that talks about lineage. Right, I talked to you about both of my parents, and I talked to you about both of my grandparents. So in a lot of this stuff is we don't have a lineage to go back to hear about our history and our ancestry, to hear how strong of a human being you actually are without anything but love. Right? So then I could pass that on to my legacy. So my son knows I love him. My daughters know that I love them. I mean, there's no question about it. Now, I might have not been there every moment that they wanted me to go do something, but at the same time, they know that that they're loved. There's no question about it. Wasn't at no time they could say, my daddy really didn't care nothing about me, and he just, that kind of stuff. So I can at least say that they know that I love them. And that's the big thing. So they can actually now go ahead and say, I'm better off than my parents were. How much more love can I share?
So so when you talk about lineage, and I also equate that with legacy, right? And I know even biblically it states, a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, right? And we, again, through the American lens, when we think inheritance, what are we thinking about? We're thinking about just dollars, thinking about resources, wealth, which is important. Like, I want to leave I'm
going to leave all of that.
Right.
I need to leave this, because you're going to lose that. You're going to lose that.
That's right.
If I'm leaving you this. So, yeah.
So, and I think that goes back to what you were talking about, just this holistic approach. And I think, brothers, I hope you're listening to this. It's like, yes, we want to do the thing and leave financial resources to your great grandkids. That's dope. Do that. But let's also leave wisdom. Let's leave spiritual growth and development. Let's leave an example of how to treat our spouses. Let's leave, a playbook on how to handle relationships, how to pick a spouse, all these different things that we can do that are a lineage or a legacy that can carry forward, that are more than just the dollars and cents.
Yeah, because the dollars and cents gonna go in the third or fourth generation anyway. But the legacy, if I knew that my great granddaddy was the president of the United States, that still carry weight. Reagan's great grandkids right now still rocking California.
That's real talk. Real talk.
So that's the kind of stuff that you got to say, because you're connected to that kind of stuff in the past, bro, you can't have nothing but good things in the future.
But the thing, and I'm gonna tell, and this is kind of like the but or the yes and to that, is because of the Black American or the Black experience, like you mentioned before, some of our lineage going back has been disrupted. So a lot of us are not privy to, you're privy to your great grandparents or great grandparents. And, I'm blessed that going back, we have some lineage as well back, 3 or 4 generations where I can hear stories about or find some documents about or whatnot. But there's so many of us that do struggle with being able to go back, right? And so, but because we can't go back, that should not stop us from starting right now and carrying whatever we have forward. You know what I'm saying? So we can't use that as an excuse, even if we don't have the ability to go back. But so many brothers.
Well, it's a thing called grown up, right?
Ooh.
I mean, if I'm grown, I'm grown. I can't. When I realized I can't change what I can't change, and I got to figure out a way that I could become wealthy, or I could become a better father, or I could become a better gospel, because we're here to spread the good news, bro. And if I just told you, well, my mama never brought me to church, that don't mean I can't bring somebody else to church. You know what I'm saying? Or I can't bring I can't take my kid to a football game because my daddy ain't never bring me to no football game. I mean, we grown.
That's right.
We can make our own decisions at our own time. So if we want to learn something, man, YouTube got all kind of stuff. I can learn how to become a mechanic. That kind of stuff. So we've limited the excuses, but the problem is the will and do I want to do it?
Ooh, that is so spot on. What's interesting? And I had, I don't know if I dropped it a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, but I did a solo episode, and that is exactly what I was talking about. It's not necessarily about, it was a couple episodes back. The reality is we do not need to always dumb down the information. We really need to challenge the mindset or the will of individuals, because check this out. If somebody is interested in sports, right? If you got a favorite football team, you could be a joker who barely finished school or didn't do well. If you got a favorite football team, you know everything about that team. You know the starters, you know the 2 deep, you know the doggone contracts of the coaches, you know everything that's going on. And if somebody basically drops you a carrot, you're going to go down a rabbit hole on your own to learn about it. On the flip side, you can give somebody game. You can tell them the way to go. You can look, I can give you a playbook on how to get from here to here. If you don't have the will or the mindset to do it, you're not going to do it. And the thing is, it's all laid out. We do not have a lack of information. We don't even have a lack of knowledge. In a lot of instances, we just have a lack of mindset and a lack of will.
I'm going to give you one real quick, but I'm going to speed up the story a little bit, but I might go back. So this is a story just talking about that will. I had a young man that wanted to get in our program. Now, we pay people to be in our program. We don't ask for money from the participants, right? So this young man came up and he said, how do I get in the program? I tell him all the stuff he needs to get in the program. He goes down the list. It's like 5 or 6 things. He gets all the stuff that he needs, but he doesn't have his birth certificate. And I said, well, go down to the health department. He said, well, I wasn't born in Knox County. I said, where you born at? He said, Michigan. I said, well, call up to Michigan and tell them to give you a birth certificate. He said, I don't know where at in Michigan. I said, where your mom at? So, man, my mom ain't gonna remember all that stuff. I said, your mama remember where you was born at, boy, right? Make a long story short, he leaves, right? Well, he comes back. He said, my mama can't, it's at some place in such and such, and she ain't got the phone number and blah, 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 this and that. I said, okay. So I leave. When I come back, they're actually having a conversation. Him and another kid or young adult is having a conversation about who's the best rapper alive. And I said, I want to get into that conversation. Who y'all think the best rapper alive is? Some of them said Lil Wayne. Some of them said Gucci Mane. And I said, LL Cool J. I said, what? I said, LL done turned from a rapper to a movie star to a mogul to a millionaire, blah, 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 blah. Man, you tripping. No, man, LL ain't never talked about blowing up nobody grandmama house. You know, so dude said Lil Wayne was his best rapper, and I said, all right, well, go pull up some of his lyrics. Man, he jumped on his phone so quick and pulled up his lyrics. I said, now you gonna tell me that you can pull up Lil Wayne lyrics, but you can't get your birth certificate, bro?
Ooh. See, again, it's mindset and will. Dude, I'm gonna tell you, and that's the thing. I think sometimes we don't do enough on the front end of really helping to build the mindset and challenge the will of individuals. And we spend so much thinking, oh, you need, man, I need some game. Yo, I need some keys to this, or I need some knowledge, man. I need the book on how to do. No, you don't. You need first the will to do it and the mindset and the belief. And then guess what? Get out the way. You can go find it, because they're literally, it used to be now 30, 40 years ago, before we had the internet, there used to be firewalls in place, right? You couldn't learn something unless you got to this specific professor at this university who was the guru of this, and he had all the information under lock and key that nobody had access to. But dude, now with freaking Google and Khan Academy and with doggone everything out there, no excuse.
I'll go back further than that. I'll go back to slavery. It was illegal
to learn.
Who taught this slave to read? They would have killed the white folk that taught the slave how to read, bro. It was dead serious. It was against the law.
Against the law. Come on. So, dude, I mean, so say what's so powerful about all of this, dude, is it legitimately just comes into play. And as brothers we're going to hear, as they hear more about your story, all of this comes out in how you operate. You know, coming from Jamaica, your dad being a migrant farmer for 20 years before getting full, his full citizenship and all of that here in America, and taking 20 years to bring the family over. Then y'all came from Jamaica in, financial poverty, but obviously it was not familial, or it wasn't emotional or mental poverty, it was just financial poverty. You came to America in financial poverty, but you had love, right? And that love, that support, but then the example of your dad being that doggone go-getter, going up and down the coast, doing his thing, led you down some different paths in which, you went to college, but then ultimately you jumped into entrepreneurship. And then that led to the creation of SEEED. Talk to us a little bit about like you moving into entrepreneurship. Because my first time meeting you, I remember Stan Johnson Auto. Like, I
used to be famous. Yeah. So what was really interesting was that path, though, of being, I didn't even know where Tennessee was, bro. All I knew was I-95. My destiny was really supposed to be a fruit picker. Like in Jamaica, you do what your daddy them did. You don't really get to move up in class structure, So I can remember talking to my dad about going to college. He was like, only rich people go to college, boy.
Oh, wow.
I was like, well, we rich too, Daddy. He's like, no, boy, we're not rich, boy. Like, yeah, Daddy, we got each other. It's like, yeah, we got all of that, but we ain't got no money. Oh, you gonna need money to go to school. So I played football. The young people that was getting recruited used to tell me, well, all you had to do was get good grades or play football. I could do that. So I was lucky enough to get enough grades and to learn enough stuff to be able to come to Knoxville College. Mm-hmm. You know, and I tell people back in those days, being poor and going to college was different. Mm-hmm. You know, you ain't have the easy go get scholarship. They got scholarship money now that they said they ain't gave out in like 100 years.
Wow. All
you got to do is write. Well, think about our frat, right? How many people we have to ask to write us a scholarship?
Wow. You know, and that is such an interesting perspective. And it goes back to what we were just talking about with will and mindset. There are opportunities, there's abundant opportunities everywhere if you have the will and the mindset to go and pursue them. Because again, if you're into it, like you said, your boy, if you said something about rap music, he's like, dog, I can go down and find all the lyrics to whatever and the history on this because I'm interested in it. If you're interested in the stuff, the opportunities are abundant if you have the mindset and the will to go after it.
Yeah. So being able to come here to go to college, you know, it was a big deal. I can remember I was pledging and we snuck offline and went to Atlanta and we went to one of my son's house. And when I woke up in the morning, I went walking around the neighborhood. Well, this man lived in a rich neighborhood, financially rich neighborhood. These are like $500,000, $250,000, $500,000 homes. Again, this is 30 years ago, so that's big. Mm-hmm. I've never been in a neighborhood of 400 or 500 homes with all Black people with $250,000, $300,000 homes, right? Wow. Changed my mindset on poverty. That meant Black people could be not only rich, but a whole bunch of them.
Wow.
Not just one or two of us, but this is a whole community of rich Black people. Now, remember, I came from the projects. Mm-hmm. So all I seen was poor people. And then the people that lived next door to the projects, which really wasn't that much better off, right? So then I went to high school and you couldn't go out to the other folks' houses that had nice houses because them people said you lived in the projects. Mm. And one other thing I got to get back to real quick before I move on into the futuristic story. When I first got to this country, it's a lot of things that people told me I could not do. Mm. And I asked a question like, well, why do you think I can't do that? They said, well, you're Black. Mm. That was interesting to me. Why do you think that was interesting to me?
Because you came from Jamaica and everybody was Black.
Everybody was Black and everybody did what? Everything.
That's right.
The president was Black, the doctors are Black, the lawyers are Black, the accountants are Black, the taxi drivers are Black, the business owners are Black, the rest, the beach people, everybody Black. Mm-hmm. So it ain't no can't do because of a skin color. You might can't do it because you ain't got no money like my daddy had told me, mm-hmm. right? But you in America. Mm-hmm. This is called the land of opportunity, mm-hmm. home of the brave, land of the free, home of the brave, right? Uh-huh. Let's not forget why we Americans, right? So that's the kind of stuff that really drove me to say, well, why do people think that they can't do something based on their skin color when they're in the land of opportunity? Mm. Because I can remember telling my fourth grade teacher I wanted to be president. And she told me I couldn't be president. She was right. However, it was not for the right reasons that she told me. Mm. Right? She told me I couldn't do it because I was Black. So I looked it up. Right? So you know the three things I want most Americans, this is scary. It's a scary question for most Americans.
Okay.
Right? What are the three things that qualify you to be president in this country?
You got to be born in America. You got to be, was it over the age of 35?
35.
And is it a felony? Is it like
no felonies?
No felonies. Mm-hmm. No felonies.
Those are the three things that qualify you to be president. Don't have nothing to do with being you Black. Mm-mm. Right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
So at the time she was right because I was not born in America, the territories, airspace, or landmass.
Wow.
Of America. I was not 35 years old. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on. Your audio went out, brother.
Mike.
Okay, I got you. All right, I'm here.
Okay. So she was right and wrong at the same time, but it was easy to say because you was black.
Wow.
So just imagine how many other kids she done told that you can't do X, Y, and Z because you black. Now, again, this is 1978, Lake Wales, Florida, second grade, third grade, fourth grade type teacher stuff. Right? So I don't know if you ever been told anything like that in your upbringing, but I can say that I wasn't the only one that was told that I couldn't do something based on my skin color.
Wow.
Right. So you can imagine how many young ladies are being told because of their gender and because of this and because of that. Well, you can't do this because of such and such, such and such. So that's again seeps into that mindset. So when I was able to go off to college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I just told the people I just want to be a businessman because I want to wear a shirt and tie. And I ain't got to be out there no fields.
There it is. Look, you are informed by your history. Your daddy was a migrant farmer, so you were just like, I don't want to do that.
I'm not doing that. No,
do the polar opposite.
I'm gonna do the polar opposite. I want to sit at a desk. I want to talk to people. I just want to make money, and I want to dress up nice and pretty. That's it, right? So about 2 years into college, I ran into a great professor. Man, this dude named was Dr. Rodman. He had owned his own insurance. Well, he had worked through the insurance field, opened up this guy's insurance companies in a couple of different states, bought into the company, became an entrepreneur, sold out his portion. His daughter came to UT, had a kid, wanted to live in the Knoxville area. And he sold all that stuff, moved here, retired, and wanted to be a granddad, right? Well, granddaddy duties ran out when the kid went to school, so he had to find something to do. So he became an adjunct professor at Knoxville College.
Wow!
With no pay.
Why? No pay?
No pay. Wow. So he blew my mind just in general and all that kind of stuff because I was just interested in why would somebody work for no pay? This America, right? So as I got to know him, it made plenty of sense. He had made plenty of money. That wasn't his thing. He was now giving back. He said it's a third. I think he's the one that told me the first part of your life you're supposed to learn. The first third you're supposed to learn. The second third you're supposed to earn. The last portion you're supposed to teach.
A return. That's it.
Return. There you go. Right.
Learn, return. Yep.
Learn, return. So that was a good philosophy, but I was a greedy kid. You know, I've been poor. I'm tired of being poor. Everybody told me I couldn't get out of the projects. They told me I couldn't get out of Jamaica. They told me I couldn't get out of the farm work. They told me I couldn't get out of this, that, and the third. Well, I got in a wonderful Q Sci-Fi. And the brother said, look, all of us are intelligent. Because you got to have a scholarship to be in the frat.
Come on.
All of us can persevere. So no matter what hardness you're going through, you can do it. You don't have to reach back and uplift somebody.
That's right.
But you got to be a man before you even come in here.
That's it.
So with them principles right there, it taught me a lot about the next thing. Stop worrying about the past so much, about what people done said about you, where you're going, where you're being, and da. Let's path your new future. So my new future was business. Graduated from college because the brother said you got to graduate. Made sense to me. Because before that, I wasn't really thinking about graduating.
You were having a good time. You was out.
So with that same story, the brothers, they kind of, it's an interesting aspect of no matter how great you are, you're still just the brothers.
That's right.
No matter how horrible things are in your life, you still the brothers. Like the brothers is a great equalizer. I think it was a brother that went to space and the brothers came back from space and the brother said, Rue dog. I remember the brother ran for president. The brother said, Rue dog.
You still the bros, no matter what. Yeah, you ran for president. You still the bros, though.
So that was it's a great equalizer, being humble of no matter how good or bad you are doing, you still the bruhs. Mm-hmm. So when you start thinking about culture, you really want all Americans to start thinking about, I'm just an American. Mm. It's kind of hard for people to be a part of something that they are disassociated with. Ooh, right? Mm-hmm. So when you say an American across seas, they think of white people.
Yeah. Ooh, yes.
Right? When you think of a Scottish person, you think of white people. You think of a Russian, you think of white people. When you think of China, you think of Asian people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So what the problem comes into is, what do you view yourself as? When you think of yourself as an African American or a Black American, that's an adjective. Mm-hmm. I don't think of myself as a Black Jamaican. That's kind of an oxymoron, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So why do I have to say anything other than I'm an American? Mm. That's like saying I'm another kind of human. Mm. Right. I'm a such and such human. I'm a subhuman, or I'm a big human. I mean, some stuff shouldn't really. We as I would say in Jamaica, we gone too far, Dread. like we going too far in the process. Like, is there such a thing as an American beside a white person? Because I don't think that's a good thing.
But you know what though? It's interesting. I think a lot of that, and it goes back to what we were talking about before when you posed the question about growing up in the projects. It's all about narrative, right? It's narrative and storyline. And what's interesting, even as you create content, you'll hear a lot of people on the back end that will say that you need to create an avatar. So when you say create an avatar, basically what you're doing is you're creating this ideal individual that you're speaking to. And if you think about commercials speak to an avatar. They speak to a specific ideal. And on the back end, my family and I, we do some acting. And what's interesting, when somebody, when the agency reaches out and says, hey, this brand would like an African-American family of 4 with a mom, a dad, and 2 kids under 10, are you guys available for the shoot? But the thing that's interesting about it is that brand in that specific commercial is trying to speak to a specific audience, right? And so I think as it pertains to air quotes American, for so long, there has been this definitive avatar created on who is an American, right? And a lot of times from a historical perspective, that's not been individuals that look like you and me, even though this experiment or this organization or this country is a collection of people from a lot of different places. And but again, it all goes back to narrative.
Right, which goes to my point of what is an American, right? Because it's supposed to be a melting pot. It's supposed to be the land of opportunity, home of the land of the, right? So we'll keep going back to that same thing. So So I leave out of this thing called college, and they kind of dump you off and say, go find you a job. Good luck. And Dr. Rodman had got me an internship with the Department of Energy over in Oak Ridge for technology transfer. I never even knew none of this stuff existed. It was stuff that was left over from the Cold War that had been invented, right? And they wanted to get it to industry. So it was trying to figure out how to get all this stuff out to industry. Well, they hired like 3 interns. I was one of them. And the other 2 young people were smart as all get out. So they started writing papers about it. I invited 100 minority businesses to come to Oak Ridge to come look at this stuff in this warehouse. Wow. So you got to imagine, you start your boss starts seeing all these people getting what they call a clearance, right? So like who's getting these people clearance? Because you only get like 3 or 4 clearance a month, maybe. I'm getting 100, Wow. So I ended up getting like 50, and the vice president of the department came down and was like, hey man, who's doing all this stuff? So my boss had to tell me, hey, it's this kid that's trying to get people to come look at this stuff. He's like, what? What you mean you're going to get them to look at it? It's like, well, you said you wanted people to buy it, right? Well, how they going to buy it if they don't see it?
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Hold on. Your volume went off, brother. Your volume. Uh-oh.
And that connection low.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
Yeah. So you said how you said how you gonna get people to buy it if they can't see it?
If they can't see it. Mm-hmm. So these are like big wig Oak Ridge guys. Because I get the guy says, well, you know what? Get your stuff. You're about to move next door to me. So I get a cubicle outside the vice president's office.
Okay.
About 3 days later, I hear him talking to Clinton on the phone.
Like
that's not President Clinton on the phone, because they're a quasi-governmental agency over there, right? Anyway, I end up winning the internship because I end up bringing all these people in. Well, what they were supposed to do was pay me 1% of all the stuff that they either licensed, sold, or did something. They sold like $7-8 million worth of stuff. I was supposed to get 1%, bruh. They gave me the internship. They let me win the job, right? And it was a great job, supposedly. It was $30,000 a year for 5 years. 2 years at Oak Ridge, 2 years back at UT getting the technology information management something degree, and then 1 year out in Arizona learning how to be a subcontractor so they wouldn't have to pay for my insurance anymore, right? So I was like set. So that was the summer of my last year of college going into my senior year.
Pause. Hold on, dog. You got to go back. They were supposed to pay you 1% of what was sold, which was $7 to $8 million. So 1% of 7, 8. So you were supposed to get what? 80 grand. Instead of that, they said, we ain't gonna give you no 70, 80 grand. We're gonna we'll offer you a $30,000 a year job on the front end on the I think that's gonna probably lead to something else, but keep on. Well,
it's a bad scenario. It leads to me never wanting to work for the government.
Okay.
So let's say that's September of 94 time frame. Going into my senior year of college. In December of that same year, the government shuts down because Clinton and Congress gets mad about the zipper issue.
Okay, right? Gotcha. Yes.
So come the spring of 95, I graduate. Well, when I graduate, I had sent out like 80 letters of interest to these different companies. I'm interested in your company. Can you send me something back? What kind of positions you hiring for? So I get about 38 letters back. I send out resumes to all 38 of them. I get like 3 or 4 job responses back. All that kind of stuff. So I'm getting ready to graduate, but I still got the job offer at Oak Ridge, right? And my professor, the same guy I was telling you about, he said, "Go get you a job making $18,000 to $30,000 a year. You'll be okay, right? That's what you should get out when you first leave out of college." Well, remember I told you in December the government shut down. But what they shut down was all government stuff. Well, that budget for that company or that little entity I was working for was $300,000 a year. They shut it all the way down to $70,000, so they kept like 2 people on staff over there. Wow. So I go back after I graduate to go get my job. God tells me, "Hey man, I ain't no job. We shut down." I said, "But I got my letter of such and such and such and such." He said, "All right, well, you go sue the government."
Wow.
So what that mean to you? 23, 24-year-old kid trying to sue the U.S. federal government for shutting down because I lost your job and I had a contract.
He's like, "Man, get out of here, baby."
So I leaned back to those 3 letters of interest. Walmart tried to offer me a job, but I couldn't live in Little Rock. Disney World, these are marketing. I was a marketing major, so I'm trying to get a big marketing job. Disney World, too many women. I couldn't have stayed married. And Decker Computers said I didn't have no experience. So here I am, in the midst of not having a job, bruh. I done went to college. I done did this. I done did that. I done bust my butt to graduate. Blah, blah. I said, God, what you gonna do, man? How you gonna? I mean, what? He said, open the newspaper up. I opened the newspaper up. I seen a enterprise rent-a-car manager, and I seen Ted Russell Nissan car guy. Mm-hmm. I go to the enterprise place. They tell me they got 3 interviews and they're 3 weeks apart. Now, that's a problem because I had just quit my job at Open Arms, and I gave them a 2-week notice, so I needed a job within 3 weeks.
Okay, you needed one within 3 weeks, not an interview in 3 weeks. Got it.
So I leave from there and I go to Ted Russell Nissan. The guy says, "Hey, I graduated in marketing. Hey, I was the head of my fraternity or the president of my fraternity. Hey, I volunteer for the Love Kitchen. When do you want to start?"
Wow.
God? You know what I'm saying? Like, is this where you want me at? Sure enough, bro. I started there. And remember that $30,000 a year job I was telling you about? Mm-hmm. 6 months, I made $37,000.
Wow. Selling cars.
Selling cars. It was a wrap. It was perfect for me. Boom. Sold cars for 3 years, became a finance manager for 3 years, became a finance director for 3 years, bought my own car dealership.
Wow.
So that's where your part of the story comes in, right? That's when you met me, because by that time I had grown into a place where I understood credit, I understood appreciation, I understood depreciation, I understood stocks, I understood bonds, I understood all of the financial IQs that would make you a rich person, at least financially.
That's right.
Right. So the backstory is my family at that time had grown with me as well. So I had to decide if I was going, I'll give you a case in point. I was going to put my kids in a private school one time, but I was 30 years old and I had bought myself a 30-year-old birthday present, and that was a Lexus GS 400 beast. Wow. Beast. You know, so I'm mobbing around the city, boy. I'm beastie. I'm financially rich now. I'm going to show you I'm financially rich. But, you know, no, I went to that school. My kids' school cost was the exact same as my Lexus payment.
Wow.
Now, what kind of dad you think going to be driving around big boy style and his kids stupid? Now, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I sold the car, put my kids in a private school, made sure they had some of the best educations out there. Because I understand that's the equalizer in this whole process. Now, if I can get them the best education, all I got to do is allow them to have the experience. So my kids was working in the car business. You know? Wow. My son was a salesperson. My daughter my son was in the mechanic shop. My daughter was a salesperson.
Wow.
You know, and my other daughter was a receptionist.
Wow.
They was doing what they was, you know. So here's where the spiritual poverty comes in, right? So by this time, I was blowing the financial poverty out the water. 3 years into the car business, I was making well into 6 figures. By the time I was opening up the car dealership, I'm talking about now I'm in the 7 figures, right? So I could actually go to Jamaica 2 times a year. I could go to New York 1 time a year. I could fly my wife to Miami and all that kind of stuff. So the financial part wasn't no issue no more. So like I said, I used to be famous. I got TV commercials. I'm boss hogging it, right? So what was happening though was I was financially poverty. Excuse me, I was in spiritual poverty at the time. So my father-in-law was a pastor. I had just got church hurt. My pastor from high school had did some horrible things and went to jail. He ended up getting killed in jail. You know, my father-in-law saved the church, came back, and they kicked him out of the church. So I was done. I was done with that kind of stuff. You know, so I didn't want to go to no church. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do that. So another shout out to Pastor Arnold. He a Kappa. You know, he went to college together. He wrote OBC, Overcoming Believers Church, over here on Harry Tubman. Well, what he said to me, I said, man, I'm tired of being a hypocrite. I'm not going to nobody's church up there telling people I'm doing all this good stuff and that stuff, and I'm out here being a straight heathen. You know, he said, man, don't worry about that. We got room for one more hypocrite in church.
Wow. Wow.
I said, touche, I'm coming. So I started going out. That was 15, 16, 17 years ago now. So one of the things I had to realize was all that financial stuff wasn't really what it cracked up to be. What my claim to fame is that spiritual aspect of wealth, you know, because I'm really looking at how the kingdom sets up the glory. The kingdom sets up what they would consider to be riches. Because what does a man stand to have all the riches on the earth and he loses his soul? That's it. You know, so ain't nobody ever talked good about a car guy. You know what I'm saying?
You think about, and it's funny you even say that, because when people think about, oh, you don't want to be that used auto salesman, oh, you don't want to be that used car salesman, because it's like synonymous with a snake. It's I'm trying to hoodwink you and get you into this piece of crap car that you're gonna end up, you know, falling down the road, you know, falling apart down the road.
You know, every story, and everybody got one of them stories is the bad part. Yeah. You know, so here I am, that guy, right? And I ain't really care if that's what you thought about me. I try my best not to do none of that. You know, I can't think of nobody that can say that I literally lied to them about this was a good car and it didn't work. I can't think about nobody car that broke down that we didn't actually help go fix or something to that matter. So I can't, you know, but again, I was still a used car salesman. Yeah, 100%. Right? So that wasn't anonymous with the word of God. And I wanted a place where me and God could actually have a conversation in a sense where I didn't need these pastors and I didn't need all of this stuff. But what I didn't realize was that means you was going to become your own pastor. You know, you was going to start having to read the Bible yourself. You was going to have to start actually doing some research yourself. You was going to actually find out that it's a literal part of the Bible and a figurative part of the Bible. And I tell people you got to find out which one of those they are, because I'll give you a case in point. It's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Right? When you hear that verse, most people would think an eye of a needle is a little thing you stick a thread through.
There you go.
Right?
They don't understand the eye, the gate around Israel.
Well, that means I didn't do no history research. That means I didn't go back 2,000 years ago in my mind. I just thought about what I think of today.
That's right.
Right. So if I think about what I think about today, that would be impossible to stick a. You follow me? So if it's impossible, that ain't what Jesus said. So that means that was a figurative conversation.
That's right.
Right. But if you go back 2,000 years ago, it's a literal conversation.
There you go. And see, that to your point is understanding history, because people don't understand the eye of the needle going through a gate, and what you had to do at the time, the camels had to take all the bags off of it and squat down so they could fit through the gate or the eye of that needle. And so some people say it's synonymous with you got to remove all the baggage off before you can, and then sometimes you got to squat down and humble yourself so that you can get through that gate. But the reality is it's not impossible. And some people, again, take it literal. They then look at it and think like, oh, you don't need to be wealthy, because you get wealthy, it's going to be hard for you to get into heaven. It's not saying that. It's going to be. Ain't got nothing.
But again, it ain't got nothing to do with it. You got to become your own pastor.
Yes.
Right. You yourself gonna have to talk to God.
100%.
You yourself gonna have to read the Bible. You know what I'm saying?
Real talk.
So that's what I was going through at the time. You know, and God showed up and he said, hey man, this is the reason why I can't bless you. I said, why? He said, you taking all my glory. You thought you got yourself here from Jamaica? You thought you got yourself born in a great family? You thought you got yourself graduated from high school with all them problems you was having in the projects? You thought you got yourself out of college? You thought you got yourself landed in a good job? You thought you got yourself into owning a car dealership? Don't forget who you are, son.
Ooh.
So I said, well, what you want me to do then, guy? He said, sell everything.
Wow.
Hold on, God. What you mean? Then what you want me to do after that? He said, go help some people. Oh man, I don't want to do that. You tripping. That don't even make no sense. He said, you asked me, I told you I'm gone. Woo! So now, bro, just imagine going home and telling your wife your mid six-figure income is about to be gone. You ain't worked in 7 years. The kids go to private school. Oh my God. So at that time was really what was happening to me, and I got a phone call, said, hey, I need your help. I was like, nah, bro, God don't work that fast. This can't be him. So end up, I tried to go work for my church and everything, bro. Kept going back to go help some people. So I worked at this place called Tribe One for a couple of years to help ex-gang members become alive and free. In that process, I learned so much from them that it told me I'm the one that needed help.
Yeah.
Right? Because I thought that all you had to do was go to school, work hard, get a good education, do all that. You'll get the 2.5 kids and have a big house and just live this American dream and everything will be fine. And for most parts, bro, I did that. But the problem was I wasn't happy because you had the stress of always keeping up with the next thing or the next bill or the next, what if you had a bad month? What if you had this? What if that happened? It was just so much always go that I never really had an opportunity to really thank God for just giving me what he gave me. You know, and it come to a point where, you know, I was taking God's glory. He told me he's going to kick me out of heaven. Or he not kick me, he kicked a guy out of heaven for that before, right? So I was not trying to be in that conversation at all. So the point to that whole matter is, bruh, when I went out to California, I met a guy named Van Jones, and he told me put a caulk gun in these young people's hands instead of a real gun. He said, start teaching them stuff that they can get jobs in a short period of time instead of a long period of time. Our process is different. Like we was trained to go to high school, stay broke, go to college, stay broke, get a good job, get rich, right? So what if you didn't graduate high school? Now I'm doomed to be in poverty my whole entire life. So if I know that, Mike, what am I going to do?
Hit the streets.
I'm gonna hit them.
I'm
gonna turn
up. Hit them streets. Turn up.
You know, because I ain't gonna live that long.
That's right.
I'm poor. If I ain't gonna live that, I'm gonna wild out. I'm gonna make the best I can do with the little bit I got. Boom. Right. So there's about a 4-year part of my story too, where I was a bad kid. You know, robbing, stealing, fighting, selling dope, all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't enough to really talk about to where the turnaround came. So that's another podcast time we'll probably have to get.
We have to do a round 2 on that.
Yeah. So when I get to the point where God is telling me to help people and I go out of California, I meet this guy, when I come back, I go to the person I'm working with and I say, hey man, this is how we need to do it. We need to do this training program. And the training program end up, he said, hey man, I ain't really hired you to be doing a training program. I hired you to do the t-shirts. I was like, dang, bro, say what these young people need.
Mm-hmm.
So speed up the story, bro. Me and three of them young people went to my backyard and started talking about what could be and what should be. So big shout out to Jerome Johnson, big shout out to Josh Utsi, big shout out to Jarius Bush. Those three young men and I sat in my backyard and started talking about Knoxville, right? And at the time, we didn't know what SEED was going to be, but it ended up being socially equal, energy efficient development. What we wanted to do was train young people in the inner city on the future green jobs, weatherization, solar panel installation, community gardening, and recycling. So when we started talking about that, TVA got involved, and the KUB got involved, and the city of Knoxville got involved, and so forth and so on. So all of a sudden, we was realizing all of those big people were getting on, but the community wasn't. So we went out and started knocking on doors and started asking people, do y'all know what to do with your young people? No. Well, we got a program. Well, what you gonna do about your utility bill? We don't know, it's just high. We got a program. So we started telling the people what was going on in their own environment. That got to the energy efficient part of it, right? So the development piece is, well, we had to have classes now to teach these young people about this stuff. So to make a long story short, we decided to talk about pathways out of poverty for young adults through career readiness training. So one of the big things that you know, I'm gonna leave you with is SEED really now trains the young people to start thinking about all that stuff I was talking about from all the way from elementary school to now. How do we make enough money to stay out in them streets? Do we have to go to college for a long time? No, we got an 8-week training program that got life skills, job skills, and placement skills in it. And again, it talks about poverty because people don't realize Knoxville is a poor place. Our poverty rate is tied with Memphis. We're actually tied for 4th in the region, right? With all the states that surround Tennessee. Knoxville African-American blacks, #1 in that said region at 42% poverty.
Wow.
65% of all the black people in Knoxville make less than $40,000 a year per household.
Wow.
So the problem is we got to get some jobs, but we got to get educated enough or skilled enough or experienced enough to make sure that the opportunities start coming here to us. And if we don't start saying something about it, we're just going to be doing what we've been doing for the last 20 years.
Ooh, dude, bro, when you talk pathways out of poverty, and then also you sitting down with 2 young folks, and this is something I think that we have to do a better job of. Usually it's the elders trying to school the young folks, or it's somebody else trying. We need to come together across generations, and you all ask the questions, what could be and what should be. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, that simple questioning right there across in a room with multi-generational, multi-ethnic, multi-socioeconomic backgrounds all coming together saying what could be and what should be. That was a process that you all followed in creating SEED, socially equal, energy efficient development, which you all are helping with, you know, gardening and energy efficiency with homes, reducing bills, but then also giving young folks that don't necessarily go to college or don't choose to go to college, you giving them tools to then go and be self-sufficient to take care of themselves. And I want to throw something else out there. You all recently are in the process of building a house or like an energy efficient home. Talk to us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so the solar home is unbelievable, man. It came out of COVID, really. JD Jackson, I got to give a big shout out to him again, because what ended up happening, we couldn't train inside anymore. So we were going out of business, right? I mean, you can't train inside. Ain't nobody gonna give you money to actually do nothing.
That's right. So
we went out and got some funding and started building the house. So we end up building like a solar home. It's 1122 Texas Avenue. Unbelievable. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And here's the great thing. When we talk about the young people, we tell them Nothing stops a bullet like a job. I don't know if you know, but not.
So hit me up from there.
So nothing stops a bullet like a job. So we want these young people to get a job, but what you have to do is build that job into a career.
Yes.
Right. So we have a career readiness class. And what it does is it gets you ready for life skills, job skills, and placement skills. And if you don't get placed by the end of that, we also have boot camps. And what we're doing to train on the boot camps is one of them is going to be community gardening with our edible forest. One of them is going to be community engagement with going out in the community, knocking on doors, like I said, what could be, what should be. And the third one is green construction. And this green construction is the aspect of we're going to build a solar home. So every time we build a solar home, we're going to have 20 young people out there with us building this thing so they can learn from the footers all the way to the roof, to the walls, to all kind of stuff. So they can learn these trades on the job training so they don't have to go to school for no 20 years to learn this stuff. And they can leave from our place into a $12, $15 an hour job, which is livable wage in Knoxville and Knox County. So, and on the flip side of that, we're going to sell the home to a low income homeowner through a Pinnacle Bank. They call it Pinnacle 100, that you can use a voucher to buy a house, man. So now you're going to change that we say nothing stops poverty like home ownership. So now we're doing generational wealth. That's the concept.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, brother, the pathway out of poverty. And what's so interesting about all of this whole venture is informed through your personal experience. Yeah. And that's where, and I love to see people live what they do. You know, a lot of times we talk it, but very rarely do people live it, right? And talk it. But when you can match the two where you're walking it and you're talking it, you know, the Migos say, walk it like I talk it, right? Yeah. Like when you walk it like you talk it, it brings something totally different to the table that people can not only hear, but they can also connect to. And so I salute you, brother, for what you're doing with SEED, with the impact you're making on the community, with the whole recognition that wealth is more than just financial. It goes across multiple spectrums, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, from your health to everything, your family, your relationships. It goes across it all. And I literally salute you for bringing that to the forefront and creating something that ultimately helps people to see that on multiple spectrums. So, brother, I salute you.
Hey, man, appreciate it, bro. All praises to the Most High. Amen. If it wasn't for God, I'd have never done none of this, bro. I'd have still been a greedy car guy. You know?
Hey, look, but you're not the greedy car guy no more. But look, check this out. Being the greedy car guy helps you to connect with people with that particular mindset. So you're well positioned to help brothers who are there, who are recognizing that, pull themselves out of it. So everything in life happens for a reason, my man. Yeah,
and I tell even the young drug dealers, hey, all you gotta do is change your product. If you can sell, you can sell.
You can sell. Well, brother, as we wrap this thing up, man, one question, and then I want to, give me all the tags and ways people can support SEED. But first, the last question: how has your journey come full circle to impact you as a dad, specifically a Black father?
Oh man, just come back to love. I mean, a lot of people don't know that they love, bro. You know what I'm saying? They just don't know. Your mama ain't never hugged you, your daddy ain't never hugged you, your grandmama, it's just, you think it's something simple, but I know people that said, I can't remember my mama ever telling me that she loved me. I kiss my kids in the mouth. They better watch out.
Hey, I'm coming.
Like, Daddy, don't do that.
Daddy's coming.
That's really the big thing, is knowing that I love them. That's it, man. I just want to make people got to understand that concept, because if you don't, you just don't.
Man, I 100% agree. And so how can folks in Knoxville, folks around the world, how can they connect with SEED, learn more about what you got going on?
Perfect question. So SEEDKnox.org is the big thing. We're on Facebook, Instagram, SEED Knox all the way across. Hit the donate button. We're building these homes for $160,000. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, But if 160,000 people like this page, let's make it happen to give us $1 a person. We'll do it, because we got to get people out of poverty. And the way you get people out of poverty is none stops poverty like home ownership.
Come on.
But you'll also be supporting people that's getting jobs. So again, none stops bullets like a job. We got to get these kids out of these streets. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? What is we doing? We can't still stay in poverty, and we know all this stuff that we know now. Let's build. It's not just financial poverty. Thank y'all very much. SEED Knoxville.
No doubt. And I'll make sure that's in the show notes. So visit seedknox.org, SEEED. Knox.org, and also follow SEED Knox on all social media platforms. And when you reach out, make sure you let Stan Johnson, if you didn't know his story already, let him know you heard about him on Black Fathers Now, and continue to uplift the brother, and uplift the movement, uplift everything. But then also, I hope you learn something from his story to apply to your life right now, because this thing is all about helping you to be the best version of who you are. So brothers, ladies listening to, because y'all like to tune in, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace.
Yeah, the guy who was doing the work.